Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Keyblade Master and welcome to my channel. I'm today responding to another one of Alloy7's Gamer's Life. He's talking more about spectacle over gameplay, I believe is how he titled his latest discussion. But first, I would like to thank everyone who's watched and subscribed to me. I have now over 200 videos on this channel with over 5,000 views. That may not be PewDiePie's direction by any means, but I'm proud and I would like to thank anyone who stopped by and watches my content regularly and those who have subscribed. Anyways, his topic for this week is pretty much spectacle over substance, or basically graphics over gameplay type argument. Back in the day, we used to argue a lot which was more important. Was good graphics the way to bring you in the game, or does gameplay matter? Of course, the answer is a little bit of a good mixture of both. Graphics do help you get into the game, but if that's all you have, the game's going to fall flat sooner or later, and it's going to age like crap. But anyways, he's kind of expanding that more into the story, the narrative, and the way that's put in, because video games is such a different field of media. You don't necessarily have to do long cutscenes or storybook-driven narrative to really get your point across. That said, the type of games he plays, the type of games I like to play, the sandbox and the RPGs, use more of the storybook Hollywood narrative. And is that bad or good? And I'm going to say depends. Anyways, let's look at a game that's a first-person shooter but doesn't use the Hollywood narrative to kind of show what video games can do without having necessarily a lot of time spent on narrative, and that would probably be BioShock. That game does have some narrative. It does stop for a few cutscenes, but it's not overly laden with them. And you learn exactly what happened to the city by either exploring around it, seeing kind of the carnage that has happened in this underwater city, and by listening to these audio notes to how this, kind of this utopia that was built on Ayn Rand's dreams kind of turned into hell on earth when a few people sabotaged it. And a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. And that's a really great way of telling a video game without having necessarily to spend hours on the narrative. But let's get back into my two favorite breeds of video games, the sandbox and the RPGs. With the sandbox, you're going to have a lot of narrative cliches, even more than with the JRPGs, which everyone picks on for their cliches. But in the sandbox game, you're always going to have at least one or a dozen scenes, more closer to a dozen scenes, where your hero walks into somebody doing something stupid, crazy, planning a military strategy. Doesn't matter if you're playing Jak and Daxter, Assassin's Creed, or Red Dead Redemption. They're going to walk in, and he's going to say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z because I can't get my hands dirty with it at the moment. And your hero's going to go, consider it done, walk out and start the mission. Some of the sandbox tropes can get incredibly dull. However, does that mean having the narrative in it is bad? No, having a great narrative in a sandbox game wants me to explore the world more, helps me understand the world, and helps me get closer to the characters. Assassin's Creed 2 really worked because Ezio Auditore is a likable rogue. He's got a good mission to get revenge on his family, and he has reasons to do the things he does, and it's set in an interesting backdrop with a lot of famous historical characters kind of just coloring this world, and that narrative really helps you get into the game. On the JRPG side, another really great game that I enjoy, and it's on sale this week for the Xbox 360 if you're listening for $3. If you have an Xbox 360, $3 I think for gold, about $4 if you're not. It's a crazy deal. You'd be foolish not to pick this one up if you're into RPGs, but that's Tales of Vesperia. Again, the really likable characters and just some of the narrative that went on really helped me get into that game because I was laughing, I was enjoying these characters that I was traveling with through the game more than if they were just silent individuals for me to trance around as my avatar. So in that case it worked because I enjoyed these characters. I was able to get into the game's world. Now here's where this is a double-edged sword. If the story and narrative are either too long or worse, dull, Let's go back to Assassin's Creed and its latest screw up, Assassin's Creed Unity. I hated that game's narrative. They didn't really do much with the French Revolution backdrop. The main character was Ezio again, except this time he was incredibly dull. What new stuff they added to him didn't make sense and was frustrating. It's like, okay, you're going to tell me nurture versus nature. Nature automatically wins when all the other Assassin's Creed games have said absolutely not. You're also going to trust Arno as an assassin, but not trust Elise, even though they were raised by the same person who was a Templar. Where in the heck does this make any sense? And it was just stupid. And what really is a fairly decent sandbox world just turned into a tedious dull because I really didn't want to sit through the story. I didn't really give a flying heck about these characters. So, yeah, that's kind of a negative. The original Assassin's Creed was also kind of boring cookie cutter narrative that helped drag that games down and actually kind of increased what I hated about the game, and that was its repetitivity, because the story's been repeated a lot in video games. So in those cases, it's where it's bad. In the Tales series, I gotta go with Tales of Symphonia, Dawn of a New World, where the narrative really screwed up what could have been a good game. Now, Tales of Symphonia is a decent game. Narrative-wise, when it's not ripping off Final Fantasy X, it's ripping off Final Fantasy V, but I did enjoy the characters in that one as well. Dawn of the New World kind of made it that everything I enjoyed about them in the first game was squashed. You got two new main leads, and both of them are miserable to sit down, listen to, or have any type of experience with. And no, it's not the voice acting that always pisses me off when people go and does, well, it's the English voice acting, the Japanese did it better. I'm like, excuse me, Johnny Young Bosch, the guy who played Vash the Stampede, who's played Ichigo on Bleach and many, many other roles, and then Laura Bailey, who's done Full Metal Alchemist and has long list of anime roles too that she's accredited with, are the two main leads. I like these voice actors. It's the way they're written. They just annoy the hell out of me. Emil's either a whiny wuss or he's psychotic. That's the two extremes he goes throughout the story. And then Marta, his companion and slash girlfriend slash stalker slash maybe potential rapist, is headed for an abusive relationship somewhere down her life just because of the way that character acts, and it makes me hate both of them. And then they turned all the other characters from the original Tales into people I really hate, especially the main character from the first one, Lloyd. And because of that, what is a pretty decent but not great Tales game got turned into an absolute slogfest bore for me that was like, please make it that the game ends with both of them getting hit by a train. Please let this game end with both of them getting hit by a train. And it's a shame. So my thought on this is, yeah, Spectacle's important. Spectacle, when done right, will help draw you into the game. It will let you know the characters. It will help you know the world you're exploring better, as long as you're not spending too much time to where I feel like I'm not playing a game. And the one game that I think is guilty of that sin would be Xenosaga. That one I really disliked because there was like a 50-minute cutscene and it was pretty boring, and that's when I remember starting to tune out of that one. I'm not a big fan of Xenosaga either. But as long as the cutscenes are not boring, as long as the characters are interesting, it helps. You get drawn into the world. You want to know what happens next, just like a good book. And if the gameplay's interesting on top of that, it makes it even better. However, if the gameplay is flawed to where it feels like it's either getting in the way of the story because it can't keep up with the story, or if the story is boring and it makes you turn off to the characters, to the world you want out because the characters suck, then yeah, it will drag it down with it. Like I said, Tales of Vesperia, Assassin's Creed 2 were improved because I enjoyed the characters and I enjoyed the story and the backdrop that was featured in with the Spectacle. But Assassin's Creed Unity, Tales of Symphonia, Dawn of the New World kind of made the whole experience suck because I disliked the characters. Anyways, this is Tommy the Keyblade Master signing out. If you have any comments about this discussion, about what I said, feel free to leave them down below.